Welcome to July's Business Outlook Survey Conference Call. My name is Douglas Bennett. I'm the Media Relations Intern at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. And with me today is Mike Trebing. He's a Senior Economic Analyst here at the bank. Today we'll talk a little bit about how our manufacturers felt about business activity in July. We will take questions from Ellen Freilich from Reuters and Kathleen Madigan from Dow Jones. First, Mike will give us a brief summary on today's report. Mike?
Thanks, Doug. Responses to our monthly manufacturing survey suggest that regional manufacturing activity remained weak in July, but several of the survey's broad indicators rebounded from their negative readings in June. Indicators for general activity, new orders, and shipments were all slightly positive this month, and employment also improved slightly among the participating firms, although average work hours fell. Indicators for prices show a continuing trend of moderating price pressures. Both indexes remain positive, but continued a trend of decreases over the quarter. The broadest indicator of future activity rebounded in July, but remains well below readings earlier in the year. And our special questions this month addressed firms' recent demand for manufacturing goods. Firms generally report modest improvement in underlying demand and attributed recent slowing to increased levels of uncertainty and higher prices for energy, commodities, and transport.
Thank you, Mike. We will now go to questions from reporters Ellen Freilich from Reuters and Kathleen Madigan from Dow Jones. Ellen Freilich?
Mike, I think fairly comprehensive, but is there anything that struck you about this report at all? Aside from, the numbers themselves.
Yeah, I think the numbers speak for themselves. The indicators continue to be pretty weak, very low readings, but not the negative numbers we saw in activity and new orders we saw last month. And as I mentioned, the price moderation's continuing. The 6-month forecast number bounced back up. That's a good sign, but still lower than readings we saw earlier in the year. The comments seem to be consistent with that appraisal this month.
All right, questions. Kathleen Madigan from Dow Jones.
Mike, referring to the special questions, the second question, the factors do you attribute to this? Was the debt ceiling limit one of the, worries about the debt ceiling limit one of the choices that businesses could have selected? No,
actually, what we reported there were the choices that they had, and as pointed out in the tables, of the firms that did mention some slowing in underlying demand, the largest percent, almost a little over 80% of them mentioned increased economic uncertainty, but a large percentage, 44%, mentioned higher prices for energy, commodities, and transport. Seasonal factors were also in there, about 35%, and a much smaller percentage, about 12%, mentioned or chose the ending or withdrawal of fiscal stimulus. So for these manufacturers, that's a much more minor element.
Okay, thanks.
All right, follow-up questions, Ellen Freilich?
Yes, is a reading like this consistent with second half GDP growth of 3 to 3.5%, which I think your bank president was talking to us about yesterday?
Well, we did ask them in the special question about their forecast for production for the third quarter. And one thing to point out about those responses, although the average, the calculated median, growth rate for the third quarter was only about 0.5%, which is relatively slow. But again, that was an estimate for the next 3 months. Although the 6-month forecast number looks more favorable, and the fact that
and what number is
You know, a higher reading of 23.7 compared to 2.5 last month. So a much better diffusion index over 6 months. And I think the fact that a lot of these firms that experienced recent slowing, they're attributing things that are relatively temporary, like economic uncertainty and prices of energies.
Like transitory things.
Yeah.
Like higher energy prices.
That's right. So you know, I think it's consistent with the story of improving growth in this sector even over the next 6 months. Although it looks like maybe in the short term we still may experience some little bumps.
All right, follow-up questions, Kathleen Madigan?
No, none for me, thanks.
Right.
None for me either, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we will talk to you again on Thursday, August 18th.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks. To follow up on this press conference, Mike and I will talk a little bit more about the survey. Mike, we asked a special question this month about demand, specifically asking firms to characterize it over the past 2 months. What did they have to say about this?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the press conference, there were more firms, you know, indicating that demand had not decreased than increased. So when they look at the underlying trend in demand, although our diffusion indexes have been really weak the last 2 months, they're still saying that they've had modest improvement. And once again, when we asked them to forecast for the summer, or at least the third quarter growth, the positive, we have positive growth forecast, although the rate is not very high. One thing I'll point out about the responses that we did receive an awful lot of firms in the two end categories will increase by large amounts, more than 4%, or decrease by more than 4%. So there's a great dispersion of the responses within that question. But again, it's consistent with a pattern of continuing growth.
Right. Thanks a lot. You've just been watching July's Business Outlook Survey press conference call and commentary with Mike Trebing, Senior Economic Analyst here at the bank, and myself, Douglas Bennett, Media Relations Intern, also at the bank. Next month's Business Outlook Survey will be posted on our website on Thursday, August 18th at 10 a.m. Thank you.